Now we have the basic knowledge for starting of the vector art. So let's start making the vector art officially. So the first thing that we wanted was our reference image. We have that on layer, we have renamed that layer, and we have also logged that layer so we cannot mess that up. The next thing is creating a new layer. And as we discussed in the previous lecture, we will be beginning with the outlining. So I will just double click this layer and rename it to outlining, or maybe outlines. So first of all, again, let's divide the category, or you can say let's categorize. If you are a mouse user, just click P on your keyboard or go here, use pen tool and start outlining. If you are a tablet user, click on B from your keyboard, or you can go here and you have the brush tool. Now first of all, before going for the brush tool, double click it. When you double click it, you have this fidelity. You can either make the line smoother or accurate. Now this will depend upon how efficient you are when using your tablet. If you are efficient enough that you can actually draw all of the circles, all of the roundness and everything, you can bring that on. You can go with almost this fidelity, and if you are not good enough, I will be suggesting this to stay at the default. The next thing you have to do is go to properties, and here you can see the brush. Expand this and you have different options. 5-point round brush works very good when you are going for the outline. You just need to double click this and have this brush options here, and then in the size part you have to click on fix and then pressure and increase the variation to the max. And when you click OK, you will have your brush related to the pressure sensitivity of your tablet. For example, you can see this is like the minimum to the maximum and then minimum again. So this is what we all actually want when we are going for graphics tablet. And for the pen users, don't worry, I've also got your back. You will draw all of these lines and you have these lines. Then you can increase the stroke like this, and if you click on stroke, here you can see the profile, and from the profile you can change the uniform to this, and it will also modify like this, some hardness, some softness, some hardness and some softness. So don't worry, if you don't have a graphics tablet, you can also achieve the stuff. So let's officially begin the outlining. I will be beginning with the nose. B, obviously I can reduce the size by using the brackets button that are present on keyboard after the IOP. And here you have to select the outline color. We will be going with the black. And let's just draw the outlines for the nose. And here we are, like this. You can press Ctrl Z on your keyboard to undo your last action. And that actually helps a lot, because when you are drawing, most of the stuff happens that you don't want to happen. And this is it. We have the nose. Let's go for the lips now. Z on your keyboard will help you zooming in and out. When you press Z, it zooms in. When you hold Alt, it zooms out. So Control Z again for keyboard, undo, and this is it. This. Okay, so we have joined the both edges in a good way, and here it is. We have got the lips now. Here we have only one ear, so we will be doing that. Actually, as you can see, I'm going a bit rough on the edges when it comes to lips and ears, and that is because this will be covered inside the hair part, so you don't need to worry about that. But obviously you have to be precise and be accurate when it comes to the parts which will be exposed throughout, like these parts. But these edges will be covered inside the hair part, so you don't need to worry about that. And then we can go with the facial feature, like this part, and there it is, pretty accurate. Now the eyes, and we will be making just the outline for the eye, and the remaining part will be done in the respective lecture. Let's go like this. So we have almost the same thickness, and some light lines or light strokes, you can say, for the borders. Here we have it again, and here it is. You will obviously be taking more time if you are like new to the outlining and the vector art stuff, but if you are already working on this stuff for like some year or two, you have made some vector arts back in the time, or even you just have used the pencil for a long time, you will be accurate with your strokes and stuff. So I'm just ending it up here because we want the canvas to be filled, and you will actually have to do this stuff again and again when you will be making vectors, because not every picture has all of the extremities and stuff that you want. Now you can hide the reference layer and see we have a pretty good outline here for our vector. This is looking good to me. See, so I think we have made every extremity. Let's just add some detailing to the ear like this, and maybe this. So this is gonna work fine. We have the eyes, we have the nose, and this is pretty much everything. We have got the basic outline. Like, let's just also add something here so we can make these here a bit lighter. And yes, so this is what we have made so far. You can always save this by pressing Ctrl S on keyboard or going to file and then save. I've already saved that. That is why it is not showing me the button. So this is the basic outlines or the basic skeleton, you can say, for our vector art. Let's just lock this layer, and in the by far this is what we have created. We have actually added outlines to our reference image, and now we have done the first step in making the vector art. Now let's proceed towards adding hair. So in hair part we will be adding eyebrows, we will be adding beard and mustache, we will be adding the head hair, and this will be actually helping us turning this outline into a proper like grayscale image or a basic sketch. So for that, first of all, create a new layer and you can rename that to hair. And we actually rename these layers so that it makes easy to move these layers up and down in the end, so you do not create any type of mess. So again, when it comes to hair, you have two options. You can either go for pen tool if you are a mouse user, or you can go for pencil tool if you are a tablet user. For the tablet users, I will be suggesting you to choose pencil tool and go slowly and add some sharp edges, add some, the flame like effect, and these are the things that will be helping you in achieving like the greatest things related to vector art, the most realistic things, the most semi-realistic thing, etc., whatever you like. So when you have this, you can just click on this button to change the stroke color into the fill color, and obviously we want it black and we are good to go. So we have one eyebrow. Let's go for the second one, and here it is. Now actually, when you create vector art, sometimes you have to change your reference image according to your choice. For example, you can see the eyebrows of the reference image are just like the simple strokes from the the brush, but we are actually making these dark just because that will be adding a better look. So here it is, we have eyebrows, and then we will be adding a mustache, and similarly you see here are some black and white hairs mixed up properly for the mustache, but we will be going with only black right now, so the person will be looking more younger than he actually is right now in this period of time. So these are some adaptations you will have to learn when making vector art. You can obviously go for the exact thing in the reference image, and that is what actually art means. You have to do the modifications according to your choice, according to your taste, according to the requirements from your client if you are doing this for like freelancing work and stuff. So these are the things that you actually have to keep in mind, and you actually have to practice these. Like I myself, when I created the first vector art, that was really, really flat, and that was like the exact replica of the image, due to which some part of the eyes and eyeballs was not in the proper place, the hair part was not good, and etc. etc. You actually learn from your mistakes every time. Like you have to modify all of the things. You do not get anything like pretty accurate to the reference. Sometimes you can actually also get everything pretty accurate as a reference, like everything is like to the point, like how you want it to be. The actor's face is actually in position, the hair are like you want these to be, like you want them blonde, they are blonde, you want them black, they are black, you want everything to be pretty accurate, and everything will be that. Sometimes this will also happen, but most of the time you will not be getting what you want. So you actually have to make that by yourself. And we have the mustache now. We can go for the beard. And here it is, like the same method. You just have to draw on the reference. You can modify that a bit. And here it is, small part of the beard. And then from here, here it is. And see, like I previously told you, these lines or these outlines will not create a mess because these are going to be hidden in front of hairs, and this is actually happening right now here. So this is also a good step before creating vector art, to properly evaluate your image and see like where you want to be pretty accurate and where you just want to have like a good look. Now as you can see, we have created a mess here, we got this here. So we can change that, or we can fix that by going with the tool. And here is our knife tool. We can move it, and with the knife tool selected, we can cut this part. And when we cut this part gets separated. Let's cut it properly. Direct selection tool, and now this part is cut here. So now we can go with the eraser tool and remove this circle here. I actually use scissors first just to make sure that we don't mess up the remaining part here. And when you have done that, you can go back to your layer. Here it is. Again, keep drawing and you will be good to go. And all of this stuff is actually just the muscle memory that you will also achieve when you will create like 100 vector arts or 200 vector arts within 2 or 3 months of max. So there is nothing like you can do, or there is nothing like a big thing that only a person like a person who is teaching can do and you can do. None. There's nothing like that. You can also do all of the stuff that I am doing here, and everything is just the muscle memory. So this is the muscle memory that I got myself by creating these vector arts for years now. So we have the beard here, and now you can see the vector is actually looking pretty good. Let's go for the upper here, and here are you see I messed up here a little bit. See, so I can compensate that by adding another layer of hairs like this, and now we will be fine. And this is the thing I was talking about. You actually have to modify everything according to your liking, like how you want it to be. This is the main thing, or how your client wants it to be, or the you can say how it looks pretty impressive. So everything depends on you and no one else and nothing else. And here is, and again you can see we got this. So we will go with cut from here, grab eraser, and boom, we are good. And see here it is actually a bit less developed, but we are going to make it properly developed because we want our vector art to be our way. So here it is, the basic here for the vector. So now you can see, if you see the reference image now, it's actually looking like that. See? So now we have actually got the sketch, and this is like the first, or the second step in making the vector art. You can also add some shades to the hair. For that you can add another layer, hide the the lock the hair layer and call it hair shade. And for the shades you can actually go like long lines like this, and then you can go for a gradient. And then you have a gradient. You can select black and white. You can change its direction to something like this, like top to bottom. So it's not 90, it should be minus 90, or maybe no, 90 is good actually. We have dark on top, and we will move this color, modify this to something like something darker, maybe this. And it's almost like the same color, almost the same. And then you can modify its opacity a bit to make it properly blend, so it almost looks like the same thing. And then you can just draw again the long lines which are going to add some depth inside the beard. We again selected the same gradient. See, we can again go for 90-degree, and all of the pen tool users can also do this, and that isn't also not going to cost more work. So everyone can do this, everyone is more than welcome to do so, and I will also suggest you to do this. See, so we are adding some depth. You can keep on adding this, like here you can see we went from here to here, and now we will be going from like this part to maybe a bit less deep. And when we will add now and change the dimensions, so it will go towards here. So this is overall adding some pretty nice depth, I would say. And here it is, and this again the gradient, the 90-degree. See, we have this. Now for the mustache we can go with another type of shading that we will also be learning in the shading part of the face colors. You have this. Let's add a color a bit lighter than black. Here it is, some dark gray, and then add other layers like extending throughout it of the same dark black. This will also create some nice depth. So here it is. You can always modify these colors later if you don't like them, if you don't want them to be this way. And even I will also suggest you to try different things actually, because these are the things that you will learn or you will get the final result after practicing and after trying some maybe two or three types. See, now we have some depth over here and even here. Let's do this and 90-degree and modify its opacity this time, and here it is. So we have our beard completed, and upper hair will work fine the same way. So this is pretty much it. Now we have outlines. In previous lectures, as you can see, this is what we have created. We have gone for outlines, hair, and the shading of the hair to give it more realistic look. Now the next step is going to be the coloring. And for the coloring, as we have already discussed, first of all, we are going to add a base color, and then we will go for the shading of that base colors, different color variants. So first of all, for the base color, you have to decide which areas you have to fill. So here you can see only this part and this part of the human skin is visible. Obviously, if you will change the image, there will be different parts. Maybe if the person or the subject in the image is wearing long neck, the neck might not be visible, or the second ear might be visible. So there are different kinds of variants when it comes to the pictures. So the basic thing is you will have to create a new layer and name it color, and then you have to create a figure extending from here and the whole of this part just like this, and then you have to turn that object or subject into a clipping mask using this button. And for that you can always go for a pen tool, as this would be easy to draw, or you can either go for pencil tool. But in the case of pencil, you will actually have to go like this. For example, I'm drawing using a pencil right now, and also make sure to stay below the outlines when drawing the colors. So here you can see I drew this. Now what I have to do is move towards the end where I left the last stroke, and here you can see the icon below the pencil changes. Like here you can see it changes from star to a dash. So when it becomes a dash, you can press it on the graphics tablet and start extending it, and it will become the part of same stroke. If you were using a pen tool, you can always go for the same thing, and for that you will see the icon of a hat. And here again I can go like this, maybe extend it to this part first, zoom in, or maybe just use pen tool and extend it from this part. Actually, when it comes to the curves, the pen tool is actually quite handy. And here it is. You just have to stay below the outlines, and that is the rule when you are going for making a mask for the base color. Now here you can see we are going with the neck part, and this is how is it going right now. So both tablet and mouse users can do this using the pen tool, or the tablet users can also go with the pencil tool as I showed you earlier. So here it is. Now the last part, which is ear, and we are almost done here. Just a second, and here is the final curve. Here we go. So as you can see, we have covered almost all of the parts, and you can now extend it below the hairs like an easy deal. So here it is. We have this figure right now. Now let's test this figure first. I can change the color to maybe blue. Here it is. It actually changed the outline. So here it is. So this is the figure that we just created. And if we just click on this button, which says make or release clipping mask with the layer selected, it will convert the immediate element into a clipping mask. And now the every new element that we will add, for example, I have a rectangle here or maybe a square here, I change its color. Now I can see this square right now, but it is not showing its color. That is because it is outside of this mask area. If I move it inside the mask, you can see the color. See? So this is how the mask works. Now the next thing is how to move this mask below all of this stuff. And that is just simple. Hold your left mouse button and drag this layer below. And that is why I told you earlier that you have to know about the moving of layers up and down, because you always want outlines and hair to be on the top and all of the colors and stuff below that. So now we have our mask. Let's just create a simple figure, maybe using the rectangle tool or maybe pencil, pen, anything. Just cover everything and change its color to something more natural. Like this can be a good skin tone. See, this is somewhat realistic skin tone and I actually like that. If you also want to copy this, you can always use this hashtag ed9169. You can copy this and add this into your Illustrator color picker, or you can say the color panel, and you will be good to go. You will get the exact same color. So this is how you do it. Now one more thing here is, if you are a person who makes vector arts again and again, you can always make a new layer and make different rectangles or squares or any kind of figures here. Now this is going to be your base color for every vector, and then for the other parts you can always change that. Maybe this is the darkest one, and then we can have this one for the darker one. This is going to be the lighter tone, and here we have the highlights. So when you do this, you actually have like color palettes for yourself. Then you can just click on your vector, or you can say your element of your vector, and just press I on your keyboard to get color picker and change the color. See, this is that easy. So it is also advised to make color palettes for yourself using like these squares. So this is how you make like swatches for yourself, and then you can just export these swatches as a different document. Like go to file, export, and export as, and then export these as a different document, and then place them just like we placed picture, and then you will be good to go. You can just pick these colors every time you are making vector art. So this was all about making the base color inside Adobe Illustrator for your vector art. And when you have your base color, when you will fill up your lips and eyes, you will already have a flat vector art, and actually a flat good looking vector art. So this was all about this lecture. Now we already know we have created this so far. We did the outline work we made here, and then we went for the base colors. Now the next thing that we are going to do is the eyes and the lips, and for that we will make separate layers. So we will just create a new layer, and here this time you will follow the same exact format that we learned for the base color. We will zoom in till it focuses your lips, I mean the vector's lips, and we will change its name to lips. And now we will create a mask in the same way that we did for the base color. And this is going to be a quick one because most of the part of the lips is covered inside the beard and stuff. And here it is, almost done. Yeah. So as you can see, we have completed it already. Now you can just move it below outlines layer. Remember that don't move it below the color layer this time, because if you will move it below, it will actually vanish. So here we have the lips. Just click on this button, and obviously the mask has been created for your lips. Create a new rectangle and now color the lips. Now for the lip color, you can go for something like maybe this will good. So here it is, like good. And then you can lock both of these elements, the mask and the base color. Create a new sublayer and begin drawing. For example, you can give a better shade, maybe a bit darker one, to the upper lip. And here it is. I just drew it using the pencil. If you do not have a tablet, obviously you will be going for pen tool as we have discussed earlier. We gave it a darker color. Actually, the more right you go, the more brighter color you will have, and the more bottom you go, you will have the more darker color. If you go towards the left, white will be element that will be added to your color, and if you go towards upper side, you will be getting more bright. So this is how you are going to get your colors. For example, if this is your base color, you move right and down to get a darker variant, and you move up and left to get a brighter variant. So here it is, the dark element for the lips, and then we will be drawing some random figures alongside the borders just for the purpose of shading the lips, the same dark. And here you can see our figure is not leaving the area of the lips, and that is just because we made a clipping mask. And actually the making of this clipping mask saves you a lot of, I mean, a ton of efforts, just because when you create clipping mask once, you do not need to be worried about the remaining figure, just because you can draw like anything. As you can see, I am drawing like anything here, but if there was no clipping mask, I will obviously have to be cautious about these boundaries and these borders every time when I'm going to draw anything. So we will be adding some different shades for the lips. Obviously this was a nice color, so we'll make it less and just a bit more like this. Actually your lips have a color, and then the light falls on it, and your lips get different kinds of colors. You can actually see that in different kinds of photographs. When the light falls on your lips, some part of your lips turns darker, and the same red or pink color becomes darker at some point, becomes lighter at some point, and sometimes due to the change and the variation of the seasons, the stuff also happens. So this is gonna be at the bottom, maybe like this point. Yes. So these are our lips so far. Maybe just change the opacity of the black part, and that is just to make sure everything blends perfect. This is all just a game of, you know, the practice and how you like it more. And now we'll be creating some of the highlights for the list, like the parts where light is falling. And here it is, a bright one, a bright patch actually. Similarly on this spot, a bright patch. So here are the lips, and just turn these into something more natural like this. Okay, so we are done with the lips for now. You can just lock the lips layer and then create another layer for right eye. Now don't confuse this with the perspective. Actually, we are seeing the left eye of the vector as right eye and right eye of the vector as left eye, but don't confuse this, just name it. So again, we have the eye. We are on a new layer. We will be creating a mask again. And here is one more thing that you will learn right now. As you can see, our mask path is going black, and we cannot see that underneath the black outline. So you can always change that by double clicking your layer and changing its color to something else. Maybe cyan would work great. And see, we are done. So these are the small bits of Illustrator that you learn when you are following up something like a maybe a tutorial thing, or maybe you are learning vector, you are learning some other stuff that you can do using Illustrator, like making a brochure or anything like that. So we have this. Again, we'll be making a clipping mask, and this time we are going to move this into white. And after moving it to white, we are adding some layers for the shading of the whites of eye. And here it is. We will be moving it to something like a dark gray, or maybe a light one this time, a light gray, and the borders would be darker. So here it is, and we are almost done here. Here it is. See? So eyes look way more realistic. Now you can hide all of these layers, and you can hide them just by holding your left mouse button and dragging. So hide the color layer and even these layers except for the mask, so it would be easier for you to track where its eyeball is. Now press M on your keyboard or hold this and go to ellipse tool. Make a circle that perfectly fits with the eyeball. So here it is. We have it. Turn its color into black, or maybe just pick it up from the base. This is good. And when you have it, you can again go for another ellipse for the eyeball or the pupil or retina, whatever you call it. So here it is, your eye. And to give it more natural look, pick up the base color and then move it towards a bit darker end. The same old fashioned, a bit right and a bit down, and then shade this part with some color, a dark color obviously. And after that, again pick ellipse tool, go for pure white and make some random shaped ellipse. And that is going to be like for the light shades or the reflections that we see in our eyes. Here it is, our eyes looking great. And now we have to do the same thing for the left eye. Again, a new layer, name it as left eye, and make a mask, do the base color and stuff. And to save you some time, I'm going to fast forward this part, so just enjoy it. One thing here is that you don't need to go again and again for the eye color or everything like that. And to make your both of the eyes match pretty well, you can always pick colors from the other eye that you made. For example, I picked up the white first, then the light color, and now I'm going to pick the darker one. And similarly, I will turn it off like this, turn the color layer off, open the ref and make the eyeball, and this is it. And after the eyeball, we need the basic color, so you can just go here, we have it. Now the black color, we have it. And for the same thing, the shades, we will make that. And here it is. Now the same old white ellipse. See, we completed our eyes. Now you can move these ellipses a bit closer, and this is by far our vector, and it is looking good, to be honest. This is looking like a flat vector, and I guess even if you send this to your client with obviously the coloring of the clothing, he will be happy. So this was all for this lecture. By far we have created outlines here. We have completed the flat vector by far, So let's just continue towards the completion of the same flat vector by adding some clothing. So for the clothing, we will again make a new layer and make sure it is below hair and the outline part, and then you can name it clothes. So now you can do one of the two things here. You can either make a clipping mask by going from here all the way towards here and then taking care of all of the neck and parts, or you can either move this layer below the color layer and then make a mask cautiously towards or over this outline and then go roughen this part and then go towards the end. So I will be going with the second option. That is because that's going to save me a bit of the workload. So let's just use pen tool, and we will be going towards the end here and the same end here. Then we will zoom in a bit, move this a bit towards the end. Actually, I'm holding control on the keyboard to move the anchor using the direct selection, or the snap to button. So here we have our mask going all the way towards the top, and then we can go rough in this part because we have our layer below the color layer which extends whole of this neck. So here it is. So we have got the layer done. We have this. Again, we will just create a mask and add a shape and then add a color to the shape. Let's see what he was wearing in the reference. Okay, it's kind of a dark t-shirt. So we can obviously give it some maybe light gray shade. Okay, so here it is. And then for the shading part, we can obviously lock both of these layers, create a new sub layer, and go with the pen tool for the mouse users and pencil tool for tablet users. And here it is, and give some dark color to it. And how we get the dark color? Obviously right and down. And here it is, the dark color. This dark color should be around the neck too, and that is because in most of the t-shirts we have this part a bit darker because we have the stitches around all of this area. And then we are going for the borders again, and the shading actually helps a lot when you get the dark borders and then you draw something in the lower part or the middle, and that is all. Now we have our flat vector art completed. Let's move towards shading of the darks. Now for the shading of the darks, you can either create a new layer and a new mask and stuff like that, or you can just be a more sensitive and lock the base color and clipping mask layer inside the color layer and create a new layer, and you can call it the darkest. Because we are going with 4 shading layers this time, we will go with the darkest, darker, brighter, and the brightest, or what we call highlights. So we are on the darkest now, and what we will do is color pick the base color and move it to something darkest, maybe darker actually. So you can either go here with your basic anatomy or just turn on the reference layer and check which parts are the darkest compared to the base color. And obviously this area and under the eye and this inner part is going to be darkest. So we will be doing that. Let's begin with the ear. Again, you can use pencil tool if you are a tablet user, and mouse if you are. Actually, you can use pen if you are a mouse user. So I'm just drawing on all of these lines, and here it is. Now we are going to create a straight line out of this, like here it is, extending throughout and blending inside the eye. No worries if you mess up the eye, because that is going to be below the eye coloring because we have the eye layer up on upside. So here you can see let's blend it more, and this is it. So now this is going to be part of the face that is away from the light because light source is like this. And then we will be completing the nose here by extending from this side and portraying it in the most beautiful way we can. And this is going to be like this. Here it is. So this is it. Actually, I would say we can erase this part and just keep it a bit darker this way, and then we will use the color that is a bit lighter than this, the darkest one, and we will use that to shade. So now by far we have completed the nose part, and then we will go for the boundaries. And actually the darkest color suits the boundaries because we actually have the hair part and some hair base growing out of that part, so darkest color suits. And let's complete this across the beard stuff, and here it is. Make sure you don't mess up the ear because that is also inside our clipping mask, and here it is. The more time you spend on the shading, the more realistic thing you are going to get. As this part of neck is going to be under the beard, so it must be darker because the beard will obviously be stopping the light from falling on this part. So here it is. And also the brows will be obstructing light, and here you will also be having some small hairs, so we are also going to portray those using the darkest possible color, and we are going to be done in a few seconds with the darkest color. And here we go. So we are done with the darkest right now. You can just add one layer with the name blacks and fill up these nostrils, and here it is. Just make it up sweet and simple. Turn it to black. Similarly on the other side, turn it to black. So we have the darkest part done, or maybe we can do a bit by adding some of the darks here, like under the nose part. This is going to create a good depth of field, or the shadow. See, this is going to create a good depth. And here it is. We are done. This was enough for the darkest shades, so you can obviously lock this layer. So now we have done the darkest. Let's make another layer which we will call darker, and don't forget to move this layer under the darkest part. So here we are going with another color now, which is obviously less darker. You can check whether this color blends perfectly or not by making a patch on the skin and seam. So this blends perfectly. Let's start with the neck part. Here we are going to make the border with that, and here it is. Simple. Now for the ear, we will make a boundary and then blend all of these pieces. Again simple. And now let's go towards eyes. This is not gonna be simple. So we will be going from here towards the end of the eye like this, and here it is. the eye part. See, so we will also extend this now from the upper part like this to make it a proper face patch. So here we are like this, and let's move from this, like the lower part is going to be cheeks and we are on the upside part. So here it is like a proper patch. I was actually testing with those small shapes. So here we have a proper patch now for the darker area. Now let's go for the other part, and this time we will be going for like this again, and this is how our face patch will be this time. Extend this throughout because this is going to be the proper patch. See, let me explain you this a bit in a new layer. For example, let's lock it. This is the face. You see, this is the face. You have a base color on it, and then you have to add some darker and lighter layers. So what we do is we go like this, and this part will be the darkest one. Let's add an outline. So this part will be darkest, then we add another patch. This is the darker, and this is the lighter, and this is the lightest. This is one way of shading, and this is like the most easiest way of shading, and that also helps the beginner to go for the other aspects of shading. So I'm doing this right now, like we added the darkest one and now we are adding the darker parts, and it's going well for me. Here it is. Also, don't forget to go for the nose and cover up this part and go for almost this, just like this. See, and now we will be completing this by going like this. So we got a proper patch, right? So this is a proper patch of a layer that is a bit darker, and by clicking on this we will select everything, and then we will manage the opacity to blend it a bit better, and here it is, blended a bit better. You can always add another layer. Maybe this is going to be looking good. See, so it properly covers up this part and this. So we have this now, and then we will be adding another layer, and this layer is going to be on top of darkest and darker, and this will be named as simple, maybe dark, or actually it is going to be for the compensation of the color. So we will go like a least dark, and here this is going to extend on the different regions. Drop it below the darkest one and also turn it a bit like this. Yes. Similarly, we will be going like this, and here we are, this face patch, and then we will be going with this face patch. See, it is looking good now. It is properly having different kinds of layers now. Let's just give it a proper color. I would say the color is not blending perfectly. Let's go with the same base color and something like this. This is good now. See, we have got another layer, and this was all about shading darks. You can always add highlights for darks, like, or you can just do that inside the blacks layer by going here, and because these part of eyes are actually more dense, so you can just give them a color and drop down the opacity a bit. See, similarly for this part, and to give it the exact same look, you can just press I, and then obviously opacity will also be copied. So this was all about shading of darks. We did this in almost 1, 2, 3, and 4 layers, out of which one was the darkest, the darker, blacks, and some color fixing layer. Now we are towards the last stages of completing our vector art. We just need to draw the highlights and then just a background, and we will be done. So for the brights or the highlights, you will obviously go in the color part and create a new sub layer. Click on the layer and click on this button to create a sub layer, and this sub layer will go between the darkest and the darker parts, or maybe just let it above here, above the dark parts. So now we are going for the bright part. So again, filter out the base color and choose something which blends with it perfectly. And now we will be drawing the lights. So for the lights, again, you can just go like this part. Let's see if it looks good. Okay, so it actually kind of blends, but it's not perfect. So let's just keep trying a color that we like, base it out, and here it is. So let's see if this color is gonna help us, and here we are with this color. Okay, so this is kind of good. Let's drop it below here. So this is like a bit good, not the best one. Again, filter out, and here we are. Nah, this is not looking good. Let's try again. Actually, just keep trying until you get the color that you want. We actually want it to blend perfectly with the scene, so, and this is not doing that, so we can always modify its opacity and stuff. So here we are. Now you can just go for this part in the nose, like the light is falling on it. So here it is, and just try to blend it properly. See, so here it is again. Some part of the cheeks here, just for this, you know, the satisfaction, and maybe a patch on the forehead will work great, just like this, maybe towards. And now for the eyes, we actually have that already, so let's just fill it up, and you know, it's looking kind of good to me. Let's just lock this layer and add another sublayer. And I already told you that we will actually have to keep on adding the layers again and again and again and again, just to make sure that we get some good looking vector. And when it comes to vector art and shading and stuff, all of the things are just the addition of layers with different colors, different variants of the base color, and nothing else. So here we have this. Now we are not going to like this already. So something like this. Okay, so this is good. Let's just try to blend it perfectly, like maybe this. Okay, so delete it. And you must have seen by now that I am actually adding some darks also when I'm discussing the highlights part or the white part. So that is okay. Actually, there is no hard and fast rule for the darks and whites and blacks and stuff. This is just to make sure that you learn something, that you have to play with the colors in this regard and in that regard. But you actually have to just add colors to make the vector look better until you get the, the shot, the place where you actually kind of like the vector, that yeah, we have achieved something that at least semi-realism, or at least something that viewers will like. So you know just keep trying that stuff, and you will get to that as soon as possible just by practice. So maybe let's move it to this part, and now this is not looking good. Just fill the eyes. There it is. This looks fine. And this is pretty much it. Now the one layer that we are going to add above the blacks is going to be the actual highlight layer, and that is actually the most, the brightest layer. That is actually for the part on which actual light shines, like the sunshine and stuff. So here it is, and these are actually usually just a bit of the part, like the nose and some part of the cheeks, just like this, like a bit of the patch of the skin that is actually a bit raised and more affected by the sunlight or the light, etc. So this is gonna be pretty much it, and you can always modify its opacity. See, so here we are. This is our final vector. You can always add more and more layers. As you can see, we have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 layers of shading. You can always add more. You can add more colors, you can add more natural colors, and you will be getting more and more better results by doing that. So this is pretty much it that we wanted with our vector. We learned about outlines, we learned about basic shading, we learned about the clothing and stuff, we learned about gradients, and this is our vector. So let's just go towards the final lecture